Hello and welcome to Noggin Comics. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Nora.
And today we're going to be talking about our top 5 comic book based movies. So this video is inspired by James Gunn and GQ. I was waiting for Nora to come in there. So GQ asked James Gunn, what are your top 5 comic book based movies?
Mm-hmm.
And his list was a lot different than I think we would all expect. So Nora and I sat down and we said, let's think about your top 5, my top 5. And one thing that we have in common with James Gunn, 0 MCU films.
Mm-hmm.
So, Nora, I think you should kick off with your number 5.
Okay.
Comic book movie.
My number 5 is the first Hellboy movie from 2004. I think we watched this. I've watched this for the first time like maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago. And it got me really into Hellboy. So, it's just a great movie. You have Hellboy, you have Abe Sapien, Liz.
The Professor.
Yeah, Professor, Rasputin. There's just Lobster Johnson too, right?
No, that's the remake.
That's the remake. Which all of the Hellboy, like the original Hellboy movies are good, I think.
The original, yeah. The Guillermo's, yes.
So I just chose the first one because it was my introduction to the character.
Well, and I think before we hop into my number 5, I think we should also talk about the criteria of these picks. It's not like our all-time favorite comic book movies. It's the top 5 that when someone asks us the question, we name off these 5 films.
Yeah.
And for me, it's that when I first watched it, how did I feel, and that the memory that retains from the first watch.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, you've seen Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy, and that got you into the character.
Yeah.
So, my number 5 is a film that was from 2005, directed by Robert Rodriguez, Frank Miller, and special guest directed by Quentin Tarantino. And it's Frank Miller's Sin City. I remember I was only 13 when this movie came out, and even then I wasn't reading comics.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie had this visual aesthetic to it that every time I talk about the movie, it reminds me of how my dad felt watching The Crow for the first time. How visually it was the film that he can go back to and watch all the time. Now, Nora has yet to watch Sin City.
Yeah.
But it's got Bruce Willis, it's got Mickey Rourke, it's got Michael Madsen, it's got Benicio del Toro, Rosario Dawson, and Jessica Alba.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm missing a few in there. But it was the action, the acting, and the black and white noir style. And it got me to read the first volume of Sin City. And I need to go back and read all of them. So.
I mean, I know I would like the movie. I just have to watch it.
Yeah. Also, at that time, 13, Jessica Alba, Rosario Dawson. I think there was a reason why I liked that movie so much back then.
Okay. So my number 4 is a movie I've only watched once. But I don't know, it just came to me when I was thinking about movies. Is Ghost World from 2001. I can't remember if I read the comic first or...
You read the comic at first.
Yeah, so I watched the movie because you told me to watch it, like usual. And then I read the comic, and I don't know, it's just like, young Scarlett Johansson.
Yep.
I can't remember the other...
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi is the guy at the diner.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the main actress.
Yeah, I'll think
We
of it.
would have it down at the bottom.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's basically like, about their friendship and, like, how they're just trying to survive, like, at their age. I don't know if I found a lot of relatability, but I just think it's a good movie.
You relate. I remember when you first watched it.
Yeah.
The coming of age.
Yeah, I like coming of age stories.
The two female characters, how they're discovering who they are.
Yeah.
and just the awkwardness of the whole situation.
Yeah, everyone can relate to that.
It's kind of like you was Booksmart.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
So,
but yeah, no, it's a good movie for sure.
So, when I mentioned there's no MCU, that didn't mean there's no Marvel on our list. My number 4 top comic book film is from 2017, and it's Logan.
Great movie.
It's a great movie. You mentioned that you only watch Ghost Rider once. Logan's one of those movies that it's not an easy film to rewatch.
No.
But
I do want to rewatch it.
Yeah, I want to watch it again. But it's just Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart. Mm-hmm. The whole cast was amazing in that movie. It kind of introduced me to X-23. I mean, I knew the character, but that movie was kind of my introduction to it. And now you're reading the comics and going back to catch up on all the old comics because of it.
Yeah, I like Laura as a character.
I think it was James Mangold directed it. It's such a beautiful shot film with some of the most vicious action for a superhero film. Mm-hmm. And I just think that was one, like I said, I think it's one of the best made comic book films. My next film on my list can argue the whole debate against that. But talking about that, saying the best made comic book film, that statement is what you made the first time you watched your third film.
Oh yeah, maybe I should have put it in my 2 spot, but I couldn't. So yeah, my third number 3 pick was Joker from 2019. Yeah, I think the second I got out of that theater, I was like, I love this movie. I mean, it's so well done. Joaquin Phoenix, deserved to win the
Oscar. The exact phrase that you said when we walked out of Imagine was, that is one of the greatest films I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've seen it. No, I've seen it twice.
You've seen it twice.
2 or 3 times. Yeah, just his portrayal of the Joker is so good, and I'm so excited to see Lady Gaga and that supporting role with him coming up. It should be here sooner than it will be, but yeah, I love that movie. I want to watch it again now. But you have to be in the mindset. I mean, it's so hard to watch, but it's so important at the same time.
And that was one of the things about making this list, too, is that we were constantly swapping out films, too.
Yeah, I just didn't think about it, and I just wrote them down, and I didn't change my mind.
Yeah. And that's, when I'm talking about difficult and swapping out films, I kind of broke our rules here, and I have 2 films tied at the 3rd position.
Make your own rules.
Well, even that, plus I got to live one of these, and I didn't get to actually be in the moment of one of these. And that is 2008's The Dark Knight and 1989's Batman. So, I grew up watching Batman in 89. Michael Keaton is my Batman. Jack Nicholson was my Joker for the longest time. Mm-hmm. And the Prince soundtrack, Tim Burton's directing. Sometimes when people ask me my favorite Batman movie, I say Batman Returns. But I kind of put the 2 in there. Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer. I know you love Zoe Kravitz, but there hasn't been a Catwoman that captured that true essence as Selena until so. But then there was Dark Knight, and I remember waiting in line with my parents because that was 2008, so I was 16. And we're waiting in line, and the guy that had the roped off the door to get into the theater, he goes, "You guys are in for a treat." I walked out thinking that Heath Ledger gave the best performance of any character, comic book character, any movie character I've ever seen before.
Well, and maybe I feel like if I would have seen that movie in the theater, I mean, I love that movie.
Christopher Nolan's direction was just perfect for that.
Yeah, I love that movie, don't get me wrong, but if I would have seen it in the theater to really experience it, I wasn't a nerd back then, so... No.
Well, and, you keep mentioning with, Ghostword and Joker, you've only seen this movie once or twice.
Yeah.
I've seen Dark Knight and Batman and the next 2 at least 5 to 6 times.
Well, then, yeah, our top two are,
So.
I've seen multiple times.
But, yeah, it swings because one day it could be The Dark Knight and the other day it could be Batman 89 because I'm going to be honest, I'm not a huge... I didn't think Christian Bale was the greatest Batman because that whole trilogy was based around the villain, it felt like.
But he's better than Ben Affleck.
And I disagree with that. I think Ben Affleck looked and sounded like Batman.
Yeah, no, that's true.
It was that script. So.
I just couldn't get over Christian Bale not looking like Batman to me.
Where's Rachel?
That too, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, Ben Affleck looks like he has the Batman build, but
he looks like he looks like he got ripped right out of the BTAS.
I mean, this may be unpopular opinion, but I think Robert Pattinson was a better looking, more in like better Batman. I don't know, just like more like the way the whole movie was shot was just like everyone feared him until the end.
That's what I'm shocked
at. Christian Bale.
I'm shocked that your top 5 didn't have the Batman on it because you were so obsessed with that movie when it came out.
I know. It was a toss up for me with 3 Joker and the Batman.
No, I mean, yeah.
But maybe I can put them together in my mind.
Also, I mean, by the time you watch this, I would have seen an advanced screening of The Flash. Nora doesn't want to see the advanced screening. She'll see the movie eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious, like, will my love for Batman 89 change with The Flash? Mm-hmm. Oh, because would that be some recency bias then?
Right.
But these next two...
You could talk about all the Batman and debate for hours.
Yeah.
But, like I said,
that's another topic we can do.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the Batman is just more fresh in my mind and the only Batman I saw in the theaters. So I'm just biased that way.
Well, the next two, we actually share 2 and 1. Our favorite comic books movies are the same at 2 and 1. And the funny thing is like, you know, when this movie came out, I was being compared to the character a lot for my sense of humor. And you can see it.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Our first date, I dressed up as a character, basically.
Oh, well, not really.
Yeah, but you know.
Officially, yeah.
Officially. But that is 2016 Deadpool. Deadpool is one of those films that you and I can both just throw on whenever and watch the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, that's like a few other movies too for me, but yeah. The first one especially.
Well, even the second one, you can combine the two. Granted, I think the first one had that organic feel to it. Mm-hmm. And that second one had that Back to the Future type of vibe to it, almost.
Yeah, and I really like Zazie Beetz' Domino.
Zazie Beetz as Domino in the second one. Well, you had Josh Brolin as Cable in the second one. Yeah. But that first one, though...
Fire Fist?
Yeah, Fire Fist in the second one. That first one, though, him and Blind Al.
And oh, yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't even Colossus.
Yeah.
And then Dark Panther.
Yeah,
so,
Panther, yeah.
But, yeah, Deadpool 1...
Oh, and the guy at the bar. What's his name? Oh. The guy, yeah.
Yeah,
comedian.
TJ Miller.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those movies, and, like, you know, we're looking forward to Deadpool 3. Him and Wolverine, that's just going to be one of the most anticipated films we have. Yeah. So, do you have anything to add about Deadpool?
I mean, I love Deadpool. Like, those movies, I think you introduced to me before I even read any Deadpool comics.
Yep.
And I was just, like, sold 100%.
Like, who is this character? Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah.
But then, it's funny because you talk about reading Deadpool. Because you read Deadpool after. Deadpool's like one of the first comic books that you read that got you reading.
Yeah.
But the next character you really haven't read much of, and yet it's your number 1 movie.
It's because it's so good.
And that is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in 2018. That movie, when people ask me my favorite animated movie of all time, I say Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. When people ask me to name my top 5 movies of all time, among classic films,
wow,
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is in it.
I don't know about me, but yeah, maybe.
I think it is, because here's the thing. You don't tend to watch movies without me. And you've watched Spider-Verse without me multiple times.
Yeah, I don't tend to watch movies multiple times unless
Yeah.
I really love them.
So, and I think it's the characters, it's, Miles, Shrubby Peter Parker, Gwen, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham.
Yeah.
Um,
That movie does not miss a beat.
And going back to what I was talking about, Batman '89, and I loved Prince's soundtrack. Well, the soundtrack for Spider-Verse is among the best soundtracks for a comic book film, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about that today at Mind's Eye Comics, about that, how we were talking about, okay, what are the top 5 soundtracks for comic book films?
On our way there, yeah.
And I was like, well, Spider-Verse, Prince, Batman, Guardians, Suicide Squad, The Crow. And I'm like, holy crap, that would make a good video too. Mm-hmm. But why do you find yourself returning to this film so much?
It's just so good.
That the only reason?
It just makes you feel so good. If you're no matter what mood you're in, you can throw it on TV or throw it on, and just yeah.
No, it's the animation. It's
yes.
the script. And then with the new film coming out this week, actually, everyone's saying that it brings up to a whole new level where they thought that it couldn't be reached.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that just part 1?
This is part 1 of it, and that was another thing too. Is the jokes of Into the Spider-Verse fit so well into the character of Miles, the character of Gwen. Mm-hmm. Shrubby Peter Parker, voiced by Jake Johnson, was one of the best casting. Then you had Chris Pine as Peter Parker then as well.
Yeah, it just makes you feel so many feelings, the whole first Spider-Man dies and you're like, oh my god, and then there's so many things happen where you're just cheering for everyone the whole time.
And not to mention that Kingpin was one of the best villains to use for that. Mm-hmm. But let us know, what are your top 5 favorite comic book films? And
or anything.
No, let's do kind of. Yeah. But then we didn't talk about James Gunn's though. Mm-hmm. So we just listed ours, and we would have we're planning on writing a blog about this too. But James Gunn had his 5 films, or that number 5 was Deadpool. Number 4 was Oldboy from 2003, and not the Spike Lee remake, but the original Korean film. Number 3 is History of Violence, which is a spectacular film, and one of the more forgotten films that's based off a comic book. Number 2 was 1978 Superman, which Richard Donner created a masterpiece that still holds up.
It's so
almost
great.
40 years later.
Mm-hmm. It's a great Lois Lane too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Margaret Killer is the best Lois Lane. Mm-hmm. And then his number 1 was also Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And this man has created some of the best, I won't say the best, but some of the funnest superhero movies of all time.
Yeah.
But, I'll say, what is your top 5 comic book films? But also, what type of top 5 videos would you like coming from us? Would it be video games, soundtracks, TV shows, or what's our favorite, comic book movie based on a superhero, not based on superheroes?
Yeah.
You got anything to add before we sign off?
No, but I think I'm gonna go watch Into the Spider-Verse.
No, well, we're gonna watch Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
But we have Minnesota Con coming up this weekend. We're gonna be at Mind's Eye Comics. We're going to get some content there. Hopefully, talk to some creators. She's looking at me, means that's gonna be me doing all that. But you have a good night, and see you at the comic shop.